Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Yesterday I started a message. I would like to repeat a portion of it and expand it. It has to do with the eternal question that stands above anything that has been taught this day. It's a beautiful question, and it's one that you don't ask enough. And even before we tell you what the question is, we had to ask you, are you aware? Truly aware of the forces around you? Are you aware of the tug of yin and yang? Why is it, light worker, that it seems that you've been pushing a boulder uphill so much of your life, and especially lately? It goes beyond any of the channeling that we have given you. In the past 2 years, we've told you so many things about the shift that is going on. We've given you information about the recalibration and what it's like to tune to another station, so to speak. We talked to the healers, the meditators, the channelers. And we've told all of them that the energy that they've been used to is no longer gonna happen. We've told you just lately there is no such thing as returning to the way it was. A week ago we told you that normal will never be normal. And that each day you may awaken with a parameter you didn't expect, because the new normal, if there is such a thing, will be a road that never ends, constant change. We told you that the new human being will not just get used to it, they will expect it, because with the change will come new things. And the new things will always be better than the day before. Now that's a metaphor. When we say the day before, we may mean the year before, the generation before, even the lifetime before, but things will move off the peg of normalcy. I've given you all of the information about the timeline of human history and where it's going and where you've come from. We told you that Kryon is here because of what you did. There are so many who ask, who is Kryon? And that is the most difficult thing I can ever answer, because you don't even see who I am. You don't see you and me, do you? You relate to the messages, you sit perhaps and you feel the love, but you don't look and see that there is a creative source that I represent that you're in. You don't see you and me because you isolate and you separate, you put names on things, faces on things, personalities on things, and you keep them separate. Human nature wants to follow a leader. If they're important, you just love to surround them. The old paradigms of management, somebody's always in charge. What if I told you that none of these paradigms are going to exist in the future? What if I told you there's no channeling in the future? What if I told you you reach a consciousness state where all of you don't think alike, but you know alike? You know what to do. Can you imagine a factory where every single worker always knew what to do without direction or management? Do you realize that might be possible if they were all hooked together in a way of all-knowing? Oh, they keep their personalities, and they'd all be different and unique, but they'd all know together. What about a planet that all knows together? That you don't kill each other. That sees the God inside everyone else. Who gets along. Now, we've told you these many things, and yet we really haven't visited the main point lately. And so it's time to revisit, dear ones. Really revisit the core to everything. I don't want you to lose track of this. Who are you? I mean the big who. We talk about all manner of attributes. Sometimes synchronicity, sometimes co-creation, sometimes meditation. They're attributes of the human being. They're part of the soul group and the human group, the Gaia group. But the one that is missing, that we really haven't discussed and talked about, not that much, is one that cannot be explained. It's who are you? The big who. How would you describe, dear ones, the higher self? And what is it to you? Is it elusive? How many of you see it as yourself? Actually, that is tough. And for those of you who do see it as yourself, how many of you question, who are you? The truth of the matter is, dear human being, that you are derivatives from the central source, that which is God. And although we have said that you have star seeds, each one of you, those star seeds are multiple. That is to say that there is Pleiadian, and before that, the seeds of the Arcturians, the seeds of the Orion. So much of it collected and helped, protected by the Ashtar. So many groups are part of you. But they were once corporeal, all of them. That's not what I'm talking about. What's the core? What is the core? And in order for you to truly see this, what is inside of you, truly, that represents that which is talking to you now, and that is experientially available through the pineal, who are you? And we go right back to this. When we first started talking to you, the channeling in the beginning, we used things that were metaphors and yet they were not. We started talking to you about the physics of love. There's an energy on the planet that you cannot deny exists, which has no explanation, which has no rules, but it is packed with emotion. And it's love. Mother, that first time you see the child, you hold it to your chest. Come right out of your body. The umbilical has been cut. And if you're lucky, the child looks in your eyes. And there's the connection. And the connection is forever. Can you deny the emotions that are there? And how do you think about that child, that baby right now? Do you realize that that cord is never cut? How do you explain that, physicist? Is it energy or is it not energy? Is emotion energy? Is something that is forever dismissed by humanity as just an emotion? Or could there be physics behind it? And if there could be, what is it? 20 years ago, we said this to you. 20 years. That the space between the nucleus and the electron haze of atomic structure was filled with the physics of love. And there were some who thought, oh, how sweet that is. Kryon makes our heart flutter when we think of these things. There was no heart flutter involved. It's physics. And this is what we want you to understand. Where are you from? What is home? And what is that connection? And who are you? And now it's time to revisit that which you need to hear. You are filled with a source that is grander than grand, that is purer than pure. And as you proceed to the evolution of human consciousness, this is going to go nowhere unless you truly revisit this over and over and over. And that is to say that at the core of everything, there's love. And you begin to draw the connections between human and human and human and realize that there's love connection between all of you if you'll allow it. Who is it you won't love? We better think about that. Because the new human being will see the connections in everyone. The ability to love the unlovable is simply evolution. Conscious evolution, spiritual evolution. It brings the earth together in a way you don't expect. When you can look at someone else, no matter what they're doing, and what you want to do is pour your heart out to them and help them. Not accuse them and not judge them. That's new, isn't it? You got to understand the source. When you saw it in the masters who walked this planet, when the very flowers of the earth would bloom where they walked and the animals would follow them, and what do you think that is? You think that's sweet? Or do you think there might be something there that's beyond understanding, that you can measure, that's the physics of the creative source, and it's in you? The higher your DNA operates, the more love will be in the cells of your body, and that's the love of the Creator. It's not the love of self, and yet we tell you, dear human being, that you have got to learn to love this part of you. You've got to look at yourself in the eyes and love it. The whole process that we have been talking about for 25 years of consciousness changing that which is in your body has an extra complement, and you should know what it is. You got to love yourself in the process and mean it. If you don't do that, then you're only giving halfway. It's hard. There's so much old energy that you've had to slog through, old soul, light worker, and we were there the whole time. All of the issues and all of the problems and all of the frustrations. Love is the glue of solution. It's the glue of solution. Can you love the problem? Can you love the situation even though it isn't It isn't what you want yet. It's not resolved yet. It's in the process of being created. But human beings have a tendency to do cause and effect, and anything between is not acceptable. You can't even see yourself evolving. If you don't have the final solution, therefore you don't have any solution, not understanding the beauty of what you have. None of you are home, dear ones. None of you are home. You're on earth. You're working. Do you know that? You realize that, don't you? You know where home is? It's where I'm from. It's where you're from. It's where we're all from. I want to tell you this, that when you're with me and there is the purity, a sonority of love, a confluence of purity that you cannot even fathom or imagine, that's where you're from. And that's the part that wants to connect to you, and that's the love that you're looking for. If you can put a name to it or a situation to it, it's the part of you that wants to reconnect to the part of you. It's the part of you on the other side of the veil that misses the part of you that literally is blind to that part. You have awakened to the possibility that there's more to you than meets the eye. And so many have not. They look around, they don't believe it. They just want to see what they want to see and move on, and they're pleased with it, and there's no judgment of any of them. But the old soul awakens to what they remember, and that is that in you there is the Creator. If I could tell you about home, you wonder why you ever leave. And you do. At the wind of birth, when parts of you split out and come to this planet, I will tell you what the rest of you does. It sits there and waits for you to connect. Did you know that? Can you imagine, we've said it before, can you imagine being split from your loved ones? And not knowing if you'll ever hear from them again, and yet the veil is paper thin for you. You can see them walking around, and you're always saying, "Look at me, look this way. Maybe you'll glimpse me," and they never do. But when some of them do, you know what that connection feels like? I'm talking to those of you right now who have felt this. You've awakened to the point where you've looked up and we're there. The hand comes down and says, "What took you so long?" That's home talking to you. The big H. It's where you belong. It's where you always have been. Eons before this galaxy was ever here. Through other universes, the creative source has existed, and you've been part of it. You're old. And at the same time, you're new, because time is in a circle. Never ends. Never ends. The circle has no beginning or an end, and that's who you always have been. That's home. Love is pure. Then you can believe. Without any judgment and agendas. So pure. It's what you always wanted it to be. It's what you dream it should be. That's who you are. That's the who. I want to revisit this because you really need to understand that there's something going on here where you need to revisit the core. The energy of God that you want to touch is you. You are part of this so supremely. And if you don't go there and you don't understand it and you want to assign it to a higher power that is not you, you'll never make the connection. And it's so important that you make the connection. And I'll tell you why. The physics of love is profound. And when we started talking about dark and light on this planet, we tried to give you metaphors, axioms, laws that said light is active, dark is passive. The definition of dark is a attribute where there's no light. So darkness doesn't even exist. It's simply the absence of something that does exist, light. Now, let me tell you something that I have not discussed freely with you before because it wasn't needed, but it is now because you're changing a paradigm that you should be aware of. Let me ask you, are you aware that the physics of consciousness right now on the planet allows for darkness to be active when it needs to be? Did you realize that there are energies that feed on fear? Did you know you can create them? Human beings have the power to create active darkness if they want to, because they are very powerful. And some do. Now, you got names for that. And there's a lot of names. And it's so interesting that you often assign those names to some kind of spiritual source. It's a fallen angel. It started there in the sky with the creative source, but it didn't do something right, so it fell from heaven, and now it's bad. Oh, how human of you. It's like a bad movie. And I want to tell you that did not happen. But you want to call them evil spirits, and you want to call them demons, and you want to assign darkness to them, and you want to make them this and that. I want to give you some information you need to know. These are human generated and they're real. This planet has been open to these kinds of things because human nature has allowed it, and human consciousness has allowed it. The darkness part of humanity has allowed it. And what is going to get rid of it is you falling in love with yourself. What is going to get rid of it is you falling in love with yourself and understanding the core. This is the core issue. Who are you? Where is home? When you drop into the core, what does it mean? The laws of conscious physics will not allow darkness in with a human being who is active in loving themselves. Disease will not invade the human being who is actively involved in loving themselves. Cellular structure will become more quantum with the human being who is actively involved in loving themselves. I could go on and on and on. I want you to conjure up something. In your imagination, I want you to see the darkest thing you can imagine, the most horrific thing you've ever seen in a movie. I want you to line up legions of demons as far as you can see them, and I want you to picture yourself alone about to walk through them. Now I want you to picture yourself as a ball of light, and the physics of the light that you have repels them as you walk. And as you walk and you touch them and you give them light, they morph. And pretty soon the room is filled with life, and there's not one of them left, and there's no fear, and they cannot feed on anything. And what you have done is to change the planet itself and the very fabric of existence. How about that? That's the way it works. If you were to ask a Pleiadian, did darkness exist on their planet, and where did it come from? They would give you a list of things that are extinct. Is it true, Kryon, that there are those from outside the Earth's influence that actually come here and feed on the fear of humanity? And the answer is yes, you knew that. And the reason we never had to tell you about that is because you weren't part of it. Not really, because you're a light worker, aren't you? Or are you? The planet is turning a corner. The consciousness of humanity is starting to accelerate in its wisdom and its intelligence. And these are the things you have to know. Lightworker, listen. Healer, listen, you can walk into this puzzle with this ball of light that you have that has to do with love and integrity, and nothing is going to touch you. You can go to work into the darkest places and nothing is going to touch you. You can go and heal those who are diseased and nothing is going to touch you. Because of what you are generating from home. Imagine carrying a piece of home with you. It's time to wake up to the possibilities of the grandness and the magnificence of who you are. And when this starts to occur, everything starts to change. Everything starts to change. Self-worth, human being, old soul, starts to increase because you have the wisdom to see who you are. When you start to see what you can do, how you feel, how you can heal, how your life is starting to actually change, do you know what that does to self-worth? It increases it because you realize your value to the planet, to the universe, to the creative source. And you can glimpse a little bit of home. I want to close this by asking you, pleading with you, to start glimpsing a little home. In your meditations, when you talk to yourselves, I want you to remind them where they're from. The love of God is who you are. You are love. And none of the processes and none of the things that I told you about are going to work until there's an acknowledgement of this. It's going to change the planet. To come a day when the negative things that you see right now on your news will never, just simply won't be there. Hundreds of years have taken place since you had marauding armies of conquerors and clashing with swords and shields and all of those things. You don't expect to turn on the news and see that that's coming, do you? Will there come a day when you turn on the news and you won't expect what you see today either? It'll be that different. It'll be that different. The idea of humans killing each other on purpose for effect will be barbaric. You won't even see it as human. Because when you touch this planet with home, the planet starts to resound and others start to remember what you know. The grids of the earth start to resound with it. The planet is in transition, dear one. I want you to be an active part of the transition, old soul, and I want you to start loving yourself, and this is the message of the day. And when you do, there is a reciprocation that you won't believe. When listen, when you love a human being and they love you back, there's nothing like it, right? Can you imagine reaching up and taking the hand of your higher self and feeling the reciprocation? Welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Is it possible that some of you have come into the planet on purpose with things to do if you say yes? And the answer is yes. Some are extremely profound, some of them not so much, but all important. Some of you carry contracts, you think, that will take you to places that you're now discovering. They're not contracts at all as you think of contracts, dear human being. So the first item I want to tell you about is with free choice, your contract is in invisible ink. When you come into this planet, you don't have to do anything that is spiritual. You don't have to follow a path. That's free choice. With your Akash, with your intuition, with all of the things that would line up with maturity, with age, you will start to perhaps see and discover, or not. So a contract is a potential, and it exists. In this room, there are so many of you who are aware of it. In this room, there are old souls, Lemurians. In this room, there are those interested enough in that esoteric thing called channeling that you've made plans to be here the whole time, in advance, given of your resources so that you can sit and learn. You're different. And most of you are here for a purpose. Some of them are profound, as I said. There's books that have been written in the room, healers that are in the room, educators, those who deal with children in the room, even those who say, well, I haven't found mine yet. Yes, you have. It's to be on this planet enlightened. Is that good enough? Because you affect everything around you. Mom, Dad, you affect your children. Everything. All of you have that, which is a purpose. But I sit next to a very special one. She sells it pretty good, doesn't she? Because she is it. She's light. The teacher Peggy has paid the price, as so many of you have, in relationships of all manner. She has been asked to leave countries because her light was too bright. She's been asked to leave the room because her light was too bright. All through her life, this has been the teacher Peggy. And the thing that brought her to the cosmic lattice was this light. How do you categorize it? How do you use it? What do you do? And she put it together. Are you shocked that there's physics involved in the lattice? If you take a look at science, they will say everything has fractals. Everything, down to the smallest of the smallest of the smallest, there's pieces and parts and designs. Why would the map of human energy be any different? And that's what she's done. She's mapped out as best as possible over the decades of her life what lies inside. How it works, what are the fractals, what does it mean? It includes the meridians, the esoteric, the physical. It includes consciousness itself. All those to be studied, worked on, healing, the reverse of it, the yin and yang, it's all there. That is why she came. Dear ones, long after she is gone, that information will remain. And it will always have that name on it of Peggy Phoenix Dubrow. She stewarded it and continues to. She's light. And that brings me to the lesson. And the lesson is one I have given before so many times. For those listening after the fact and enjoy listening to multiple channelings, this is not new. For those in the room who actively have raised their hands and said this was the first time they have actually heard the channeling or been in one of Kryon. This is for you. I want to tell you about light, because things are changing on this planet. Question. Kryon, is the cosmic lattice the human Merkaba? Answer, no. The Merkaba is that sacred vessel that you ride in. I'm going to call it the ascension vessel. The cosmic lattice is the map of human energy. All of it. Even parts that Peggy has not yet discovered. But the Merkaba, an esoteric vessel that you ride in all your life, you might say it's the membrane of the soul. If you want to get into where it is, how big it is, you can't. It cannot be drawn, although there is so much esoteric structure in it. There is sacred geometry throughout it, just as there is in the lattice. That's what I want to talk about. This Merkaba of yours is startlingly, profoundly energetic. Three things happen. All of you have it. Every single one. But you can walk this planet, never see it, deny it, never learn where it is, what it is, you have it or not. And listen. Through free choice, God is never going to tap you on the shoulder and say, why don't you look at the Merkaba? Because that's free choice. This is important for you to hear. Freedom not to look is never judged. Freedom not to look is never judged. But if you start to find light inside you, you start to work with the Merkaba. And the Merkaba of you, that vessel of ascension of you, reacts to consciousness. And what is starting to happen to old souls in this new energy is something you should hear about. There's a metaphor. The metaphor is lifting the veil. And the metaphor would be this, that there is some kind of a barrier that separates how you feel, who you are, your reality, from that which is God, from that which is multidimensional. And you even say it, it's the other side of the veil. Past 2012, everything has started changing. And the biggest one is the veil starts to lift. And as it does, it doesn't just affect light workers or old souls. All human beings are involved. All. And suddenly, integrity starts to be more important. Have you noticed your news? You think that's an accident? I'll tell you again, a statement I've made many times. Some of the things that are coming to light right now in your civilization, in your relationships, have been hiding for thousands of years. It's the way of it. You know what I'm talking about. It's the way of it. And now suddenly, here it is in your face. We've talked about the other things that may be coming forward as well, but I want to talk about the changes in you. Because it changes the relationship between dark and light. You have to hear this in this room. Doesn't matter who else hears that. This is for you, because I'm talking to the channelers and the healers and the ones who've been working with light for so long that would bring you to a room for 4 days where you sit in a glorious place and have different energies presented. You have to hear this. Darkness has always had the edge, always. Some of you carry an Akash that is powerfully sad. Did you hear that? Powerfully sad. And what I mean by this is that every single time you showed your light in the past, you were punished for it. That's your power show. Some of you were burned at the stake for it. The one sitting next to me was. She knows it. She's actually revisited the town. That's old energy, because it seems to win and win. Isn't it odd that shamans in the village were known because they were healers and helpers, but as soon as something went wrong, for instance, a storm came through or a flood happened, the shaman was sought out and killed. Must be the shaman who did that. And so you see, the esoteric energy had a two-edged sword, completely and totally misunderstood. The healer was also the magician. The magician was also the evil one. The darkness always won. And this has created war. This has created consciousness that could not see past its own survival. Consciousness that would get together and circle itself and compete for resources and take that from others and think nothing of killing one another to get what they needed. That is old energy. That is darkness. And I would like to tell you that this veil has started to lift, and the light is coming through, and it's starting not only to show to humanity, but it's affecting the ascension vehicle of every old soul in the room. Listen, you have habits to deal with old energy. But if the old energy is no longer winning, and if the light to dark ratio has started to turn toward the light, those old habits are going to slow you down. And what would those habits be? Now, this is controversial, and I have said this before. It's not controversial to the human in the street. It's controversial to the human in this room. Stop clearing things. Did you hear that? Oh my goodness, did he really say that? Why do you clear things? You clear things because the darkness in the past, the old energy, clings to things. It's always out there to be there to clear. And so you must clear the room in order to have a meeting. Healers, first thing you do, you want to clear the area in order to heal somebody. What if I told you that you can do that if you wish to, and all the angels that are ready to help you heal will sit there just tapping their toe, waiting for you to clear the room. Because there's nothing to clear, and I'm going to tell you why. Listen, your Merkaba, that ascension vehicle, has a light that shines so bright. The masters of this earth had an ascension vehicle that shined light so bright, and you felt it, and you knew it, and you heard about it, and you read about it. You've seen movies and books. That's what I'm talking about. It's called mastery. Mastery is starting to appear in the old souls in this room, so that you are carrying so much light that the darkness cannot exist where you are. Did you get that? You stand in front of a place you normally clear. And here's how it works. You open the door, and your light pushes in, and the dark races out. Did you hear that? I want you to see that visually and remember that. When you walk into places where you think there's dark energy, especially those who were raised to think that this earth is out to get you, that you're a victim of darkness, and here it comes. Suddenly, you are light. And wherever you walk, the darkness retreats. Wherever you walk, the darkness retreats. That is new. Healer, you walk into that room and the darkness races out. Oh, yes, but Kryon, what about the negativity that the patient carries in with them? Now, here's where it gets good. Because you, in your linearity, believe that dark things actually then cling to people and that are part of a singularity. I just told you that darkness leaves. That patient is now ready for you. Because that which used to cling to them, made it so hard to heal them, is out the door. Do you get this? That is why the healing from those who leave this room and continue their healing will be twice what it was. That's why those who would read for others, who have to then sandwich between that which they consider as darkness in order to get to the truth, will be able to zero in on it right away. Reader, you needed to hear that because it's going to get better for you. Some of you are battling that which is now phantom. It doesn't exist, but to you it still does because you have had this habit for decades. This is what you do. This is how you do it. Not anymore. Here's my promise to you. If you will cognize this, now that's a word. Cognize. Let's talk about it. Do you believe in gravity? You will say, well, it's not that esoteric now, is it? No, it isn't. If you leap off a building, you'll fall. You have just cognized gravity. You see, it becomes so real, there's no question. The idea, do you believe in gravity, is silly. You have to cognize that you are light. Just like you cognize gravity. When you start to own the fact that you are greater as light than you ever were before, I want you to observe what happens as you walk away, as you walk into areas, as you walk into rooms. People will turn and look so they can sense balance. They can sense love. Teacher Peggy started her whole story by saying she was the first one she knew about that would put the word balance on her card. People would then announce what they did, how they did it. But she said it had to be about balance. Balance of what? It's balance of light and dark. And that heals your body, you know. Healing is a balance. It's a balance that you create in consciousness, literally, between light and dark. I'll tell you yet again how pointed this is. There will come a day when human beings' DNA starts to work at least 50%, way beyond where it is now. And when you get to that place, you're going to see a very, very interesting thing about healthcare. You'll see that diseases are starting to go away. And here's why. Listen to this. Disease has a vibration. It's dark. And as long as you are also even close to the vibration of that disease and intermingle with it, it will then be part of you. When you raise the vibration through light to an enlightened state, and civilization starts to participate all together in that, and it will, not spiritually, but consciously. There's a difference. When it starts to, you will start to see the diseases of this planet that are so awful right now go away because they cannot touch your vibration. You didn't expect to hear that. Disease has vibration. That is balance, dark and light. So right away, you understand what we are saying. If you start to increase your vibratory rate, that is all things that are part of the core teaching, if you start to understand how your every molecule is a oneness, even with the other side of the veil, your vibration and your light starts to amplify. In addition, since 2012, the entire planet is so ready for this new tool, for the light worker, for the old soul, because you are the one who understands it. And you're going to find something very interesting. That right away, you're going to be healthier. Right away, you're going to have insight as to what you should eat or what you should not eat, and it's not going to come from a book. I'm sorry for everyone who wrote a book. It's coming from your Akash. Because the Akash has been there and done that and knows what you need. There is no one diet for all. It is what you come up with right through your ascension vehicle. That's the intuition. It will make you live long. It's starting to be something you should know about. The individual is different, one to the other. The person next to you does not need to do what you need to do. And so this individuality, so special, creates light in so many different ways, in so many different shades, but they all have one thing in common. And that is, there is one thing that's always the same, and that's love. And so what have you learned today? Light, love, energy. That's what she's brought you. That's what she's brought the planet. And it could not have been timed better. For this is the time for it. This is the time that you would then accept what we are saying, understanding how practical it is, and starting to feel and cognize something you didn't expect. Stop clearing. It's a good time for a light worker to be alive. You are the front generation of the shift. You are the ones that have had to pass from an old energy to a new energy. I want to show you in closing how special that is. This axiom of energy shift and paradigm shift has been on the planet for a very long time. When the Israelites were led out of slavery, they had to circle for 40 years. 40 years. Before they were then allowed to go to the Promised Land. We've said before, can you imagine that population asking the leaders, why are we going in circles? Where is the Promised Land? In those days, dear ones, life expectancy was not much more than 40 years. And that should tell you what happened. You cannot take a generation with a consciousness of slavery and take them into the promised land of freedom. The old guard needed to die off, and the young people could go. This was so profoundly an axiom of that energy that even Moses didn't go. Now you are looking at something similar, but different. Moving out of an age of slavery to an old energy, an old consciousness, into a new paradigm, freedom of consciousness, integrity, where things are starting to shift in ways that are frightening to many because they are not what they're used to. And there are those who would say that you have to have the old paradigm. You're going to have to die off, and the younger ones, the indigos, they're the only ones that can do anything. That's not so. Old souls are needed. You're needed right now. It's the reason you're in the room. You're needed because you have the experience. Been there, done that. And you, through what you have accomplished and what you know, understand what I'm saying today and can leave the room so different into that promised land without dying. That's what's different. That's profound. That's who you are. It's about light and love. It's about consciousness shift and cognizing that which is true. A new paradigm for the first time in human history, where you carry more light than you ever have before. Stop clearing things. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. And so we celebrate today. We celebrate small things. Celebrate joy and laughter. We have spoken of it before so many times. Is that which is the energy of laughter and joy is sacred, and that you can feel it. It surpasses any other emotion except love that the human being generates. The emotions have physics. There are literally energetic waves that are absolutely broadcast from emotion. You know this, for when one laughs, it's contagious. Joy is this way. If you ever wondered if there's joy on the other side of the veil, it is indeed. It is a godly emotion. It is given to you. Dear ones, it's not necessarily because you have intelligence that you have joy. You can see animals have emotion. It is difficult to see them laugh at a concept. This is a godly, absolutely a God-given way. You can show that you have God inside. What I have tonight is short. And there's three things that we wish to discuss. We're going to look at the difference, very briefly, between old and new paradigms. Before we look at them, however, I just want to make a comment. And for me, this is fun and joyful. For there's a physicist in the audience. And I challenge him to find the rule of 12s. You are used to looking at all of energy and the pieces and the parts. And I ask you to start looking at the confluence of 12s. Nature is in 12s. The DNA should have warned you about that. It's not in 10s. The bias is for you to count in a base 10. Physics truly is 12-based. Now, not all energies can be seen and identified, but the reactions can to tell you something is there. And if you count it, you will find, to your surprise, that there is a confluence of 12s. It ought to tell you some of the missing laws of physics and what might be there that's going to then reveal and explain some of the things that you cannot see. If you examine the Kryon lessons, you will find that most often we deliver things in 3s, 4s, and 6s. No one has really ever put that together. And we do it for a reason. That is the structure of everything. Not 10, but 12. We present 3 things
today. Easy, and yet difficult. Dear ones, the difference between that which is what has existed and that which is coming truly is about paradigm shift. It truly is the way you see things and perceive things and react to them. Basic human nature will fall into a pattern that it is used to. And what you are used to, even as a healer and a light worker, as we discussed yesterday, may be a habit. It may be tradition. It may be something that you were taught. I want you to know this, that in the process of life, what is taught to you by somebody that you appreciate and honor and even love will etch itself into your mind as being somewhat sacred. And when things change and those things are no longer valid, some of you feel disappointed. Perhaps even there is a betrayal you might feel as you change your paradigm, like a slap in the face to the one who taught it to you. That is a habit. That is an emotion. And it's not so. The ones who have taught you the way you should be or do or what works and what does not work in an old energy are respected because it worked in an old energy. And in the new energy, you become the teacher. And you have to start to learn to readjust your reactions and how you think. 3 things. They start with the easiest one, belief. When you believe in something, there is an instant and automatic reaction. If your belief is strong, if it is something that is spiritual, you have rules around it, organizations, doctrine, actions, whatever it is. The first thing in an old energy you wish to do is share it with others. Now, what if I told you that's an old energy reaction? And that sharing it with others is no longer what you're supposed to do. Now, there is no real, true, right and wrong. There is just simply free choice. There is simply what works and may not work as well. So do not put it in the category, literally, do not put it in the category of should and should not. When I say you should do it differently, I mean if you want results, you should do it differently. But there are some who will continue to do it the old way only because it used to work. You would share your belief with others. You'd get together and you'd say, here is what works with me, here's what I found out, and here it is. Usually it's something linear. You will believe this way, you will have a doctrine that says this, you will take the words of a prophet and apply it to your life. And it's helped you. And so therefore you are sharing. Now that has another word. You are evangelizing your belief, no matter what it is. You could be an atheist and evangelize your belief that it helped you. This is action from the belief. Humans share what they have found works in their belief system. Now, this is going to sound real familiar to those of you who have listened to me before. There is a new paradigm. And dear ones, this is harder, a lot harder. If you wish to share what you believe, it's time to take it inside and show somebody it works. Never tell them what you believe. Instead, you live it. And if your belief is indeed accurate and true, then the love of God will show through you accordingly. And the belief will be yours until somebody asks you, what do you have that I don't? This light you have needs to be shown to others by your actions that are practical. Do they see somebody who is balanced? Do they see somebody who is joyful? Can you have a situation where you walk through life and you have the same problems they do, except you do not go into frustration, anger, fear, and drama? And side by side with a co-worker or a family member or even a child, they would look at you and eventually they would say, what do you have? Because I want it. And then you can share your belief. The difference is one is linear and one is not. And if you see how this is working, truly now we are saying it's not about a linear process of do this, read this, go here. That used to be sharing your belief, and today you apply it to yourself and let the world see who you are. That, dear ones, is harder. But I want to tell you something. The results are long-lasting, because no one can argue with your mastery. No one can argue with your balance, especially if they see it day after day after day and realize truly you have something it's worth asking about. That's number one. Number two, this is simply information about what is coming and how to treat certain things. In the area of the new energy and metaphysics, in training, in learning, we have told you there will be changes in systems. Now, the systems that are going to change are all of them, eventually. And we have told you over and over that the very paradigm of how you get your electricity should change. We've told you to eliminate the master grid, to be sufficient in groups of smaller grids so there'll be no problem if a grid fails. You simply go to the next smaller grid's house. We've told you that the technology is coming for this, where groups and neighborhoods can have their own grid, and they can have it easily and not expensive. We've told you about water. It's time to desalinate with efficiency, no heat, no chemicals. There are ways of desalination in real time. Look for it. We even gave you hints of how it might be done with micro-robotics. In case you can do this, the ocean is your water supply for any city. You can see the ramifications. You can even do it on a small scale. We've given you all this. These are then systems of ecology. We have told you that politics is changing. We have told you that corporate business may change. We have told you that the pharma industry is so dysfunctional it's going to fall over and change. All of the years, systems are changing. So the question then becomes from you, linear. What are the new systems? How do we do it? What are the facts? Give us the inventions. What are they, Kryon? What is the new kind of economy that we need? What is the new politics that we need? And you want a list. Now, this makes sense, doesn't it? You're going to need to do it, so there you are with your hand out. Give us the list. What if I told you how linear of you? Dear ones, the systems are coming. and they're coming from those who are going to become wiser in the Spirit. As evolution continues on the planet, these systems are going to come from those who invent them. You're not going to get them from Spirit. I want you to start thinking differently. Instead of having conventions where you're starting to look to Spirit to give you the answers, instead, I want you to understand to develop yourselves and those around you so that you have spiritual wisdom and common sense. Start looking to the young people and developing this within them. This is coming from the future, and it's become right out of the people that you know in both genders who start to become wiser in spirit. God's not going to hand you these things. We've talked about the coming inventions. We know the potentials of what you're going to discover because they are there. We know what they are. You're going to develop them. You're not going to get it from us. So why do we tell you this? Because there is a tremendous waste of energy asking us for them. Instead, start looking at the young technicians, the young scientists, the ones who are just coming along now with their brilliance. They have the answers, and they're going to have some wisdom you didn't expect. There have been a lot of brilliance and a lot of smart human beings in the past, and yet none of them gave these answers. And the difference will be the new energy. I want you to look to these for these answers and not to Spirit. That's number 2. Number 3 is similar. What is your path? Every single human being at some level who is spiritual is looking at what they should do. Literally going from A to B is something that you concern yourself with. What's next? What will I do when this or that happens? Where should I go? Should I or should I not do A or B? Absolutely practical. Totally understandable. There are those who would say, why don't you simply stand there and God will tell you what to do? We have told you that is not the way it works. But still, you stand and you say, help me, I need something. When a human wants to go into unknown territory, the standard linear answer is get a map. Now, the map could be a book. The map could be advice from a friend, even shamanic. That is what the human does. If you're uncertain about the path, you will find an expert or a map, a device, or something that will give you an answer so you don't have to go into the unknown. Most of you know what I'm going to say. For those who have not attended the weekend, this especially is interesting. For those who have attended the weekend, you already know because it has been discussed. The new paradigm is for you to launch yourself literally at nothing and depend upon the wisdom of the moment and the synchronicity to show itself when it needs to. You race toward the fork in the road, and you want a map to know whether to turn left or right. You have no idea which way you're going, and you know that one way might be trouble and the other way might be salvation. And you need a map. And the closer you get to the fork in the road, the more frustrated you become that you don't have your map. Now, that is the old paradigm, and in the new paradigm, you're racing toward the fork in the road, singing travel songs as you go. Because you're not worried. And the fork shows itself, and you're still not worried.
And finally, you're at the fork in the road, and you have the intuition that says, there's a fork in the road, turn right, and you do. Until the next fork, until the next fork, until the bridge, until you reach the destination that you really didn't know you were headed for. This is a new paradigm. It is a new reality for old souls. You're not going to trust the linear mind as much. Learn to trust the intuitive brain, if you want to even call it that. The human being, metaphorically, has 3 brains. Isn't it interesting? There's the 3 again. They are synapse, which you call the human brain. There is the intuitive, which comes from the pineal. And there is the heart. They're actually on the heart, tremendous magnetic field, which you know about, and also there are nerve cells there that mimic synapse. This is part of the human system, which will be discovered profoundly. It's a triad, the 3. So you are starting to trust the intuition, the heart, if you wish, and marry it with the logic of the brain in order to give you a complete picture, not a where to turn, but on how to react when you need a map. Let the map come as it does. You don't need to know in advance, and you cannot. Dear ones, if the future is always moving because of free choice, there isn't anyone who can tell you what the future is going to be. Not really. It moves every moment of the day because there are so many human beings involved with free choice. Even spirit cannot tell you what day or year something is going to happen because we respect the free choice of humanity to change it. We have told you for years it can happen sooner or later depending on you. This should tell you that when you start moving toward a goal, if that is what you wish to do, you have to go a little at a time and sense where the potentials are. Which way to turn will depend upon what is happening at the moment. No map is going to give you the future. Different reality, different way of thinking. These are the 3. Dear ones, these 3 alone will start to balance you differently. There will be some who will question you as you start living this new reality. Now, have you noticed young people? Some of them are doing it already. Have you criticized them for it? I know who's here. You don't know where you're going, you don't know what you're doing, you got to have a plan. And they look at you and they say, really? We're going to know as we go. Know as we go. And you sit there and you say, oh, this younger generation, what is going to happen to them? I'll tell you what happens with know as you go. Peace on earth. Know as you go is the new paradigm. So, dear ones, congratulations for being at the right place at the right time. Before I go, look around you. That's family. You may never see them again, or will you? Might they have another face, another countenance? Celebrate them while you can. And so it is.